Until very recently, I was riding a 2018 Tiger 1200. I sold that and bought this 2024 Transalp. What you see on your screen right now is me breaking in the Transalp one day after I took delivery. This is the route I took. In this video, I'll be talking about why I made the decision to sell the Tiger and what made me choose the Transalp. I'll also be deep diving into what it's like to ride and live with the Transalp. Let's get into it then, shall we? I bought the Tiger second hand in 2021. Over 3 years, I did 30,000 kilometers or 18,500 miles on it. I loved that thing, but there were two main issues with it: heat and weight. Triumph, in their infinite wisdom, duct hot air from the radiator directly onto the rider. In colder countries or even here up in the Himalayas, that feels like a warm, toasty, rather welcome hug straight from the heart of the beast. But in the wider Indian context, that translates to oppressive, almost crippling heat, even when out on the highway. Secondly, the Tiger's curb weight of 270 kgs or 595 pounds is significant, but what's curious is that all that weight is carried quite high, which of course raises the center of gravity quite a bit. Now, with those two things in mind, I sold the Tiger and I was in the market for something that would let me continue my highway touring, but also something that would let me explore a little bit off the road. Nothing too hardcore, although. Another criterion was something that would let me try my hand at motor camping, which is something I thought the Tiger would have done, but honestly, you'd probably be better off riding an actual whale up a hill than the Tiger 1200. Given these criteria, I looked at the bikes currently available and found three in my budget: the Tiger 850, the V-Strom 800DE, and the Transalp. Initially, I shrugged off the Transalp because of the cumbersome tube tires, but we'll get to that. The Suzuki I ruled out because of the delivery timeline. 3 to 5 months, they told me. So I was like, that. The Tiger 850 had that all too familiar heat ducting issue. Besides, Triumph after sales is iffy at best, with parts taking months to arrive, not weeks. So I decided I would bite the bullet when it comes to swapping the Transalp rims with the Africa twin tubeless setup a few months down the road. It does cost quite a bit, around 1.4 lakh, but that's life, I guess. This Transalp cost me $1395 on road. I didn't opt for the OEM accessory package because of its ridiculous pricing. Instead, I got a full Jivy setup for half of what Honda was quoting. Not a bad deal in my opinion. It took about 2 weeks from my decision to go with the Transalp to me riding it out of the showroom. Honda Pune East were nice enough to make a right spectacle of the delivery, with a whole bunch of riding groups invited to talk bikes and basically hang out. It was a Sunday, so while they did that, I sat next to the bike and watched MotoGP on my phone. Well done, Marquez. I planned to break in the engine on the first day itself. Nothing like a good assortment of city traffic, highway miles, and Western Ghat twisties to firmly bed the pistons within their cylinders. 400 kilometers or 250 miles later, I had the oil and oil filter changed, chain cleaned and lubed, rear preload adjusted to its highest setting, and I was good to go. As of this writing, I've done a little more than 1,000 kilometers or 600 miles on the Transalp, and so far, I'm pleased with it. For context, my other bike is a 2010 Fireblade, and I just sold a 122 Newton-meter torque monster of a Tiger 1200. I do miss that torque, but the Transalp feels like a roided out KTM 390 adventure on cocaine. It is, what's the word I'm looking for? Sprightly. It's like an excited little workhorse. It can blunder around all day, but dig your heels in and watch it go. 130 kilometers an hour or 80 miles per hour comes in at about 5,000 RPM. At this rev range, it'll sit happy all day, every day. There are no undue vibrations felt at this speed, and you sit content knowing that the power band is just around the corner. The sixth gear is basically overdrive. You need to shift down to fifth or even fourth to do any kind of overtaking. Ryan F9 said it best. You'll find yourself tap dancing on a hot pan to make it go, but once you do, you can't help but giggle inside your helmet. The pull is unwavering, relentless. You'll run out of either road or balls before the Transalp runs out of breath. The best thing about the Transalp is its weight, or the lack thereof. It handles like a much smaller bike than it is. which in the real world means one thing: confidence. Despite that 21-inch front wheel, you can basically throw this bike in any direction you want, and it is more than happy to comply. It almost makes it easy. In fact, that one word sums up the Transalp the best: easy. It is easy to have fun on with all that power, and also it's easy to putter around on. I can honestly see myself riding for days or even weeks on this thing, but with a few tweaks. There are 5 riding modes: Sport, Standard, Rain, Gravel, and User. You'll probably end up using only 2 of those: Sport and User. One neat thing on the Transalp is variable engine braking. I found it really useful on the twisties with the engine braking turned up in User mode, and then switching to Sport mode with the engine braking on its lowest setting for everything else. The dash otherwise is pretty good. You have 4 different display options and you can switch them around when you get bored. What's irritating is that it shows you a lot of information, but conspicuously distance to empty or range is missing. Ambient temperature would also have been nice to have. Honda Road Sync works perfectly well for turn-by-turn navigation. I haven't tried the music and call functions yet, so I can't comment on that, but the nav works. It's easily readable, and it saves battery on my nav phone since I don't have to keep the screen on the whole time. Now, for riding comfort, I'm just a little over 193 centimeters or 6 feet 3 inches, and stand-up riding on the Transalp in its stock configuration is not comfortable for me. The pegs are a little too far forward and the tank offers no grooves for gripping with your knees. On top of all of that, the handlebar is a little too low, I think. I will have to try and pivot the bars up a few clicks to see if that makes any difference, otherwise I'm going to have to get risers. Other than that, for someone of my size, I feel like there is a little too much bend in the knee, but that is easily fixed with highway pegs. Another small niggle is the gear shift lever. It is far too short. With riding boots, you'll find yourself wincing when shifting beyond 6 hours of riding. SW Motec make an extender for it, but I don't know if I'm all that comfortable coughing up 14,000 of my rupees on what is essentially a little metal stick. If you're anywhere above 6 feet tall, this windscreen just won't cut it for you. Welcome to Buffeting City, population U. There is also no cruise control, which honestly is a huge miss from Honda. The seat is quite spacious and you can scoot your butt around. It only starts to get to you after about 2 or 3 hours of continuous riding, but I find that that's the case with all but the most expensive of motorcycles. So I guess that's alright. So far I've noticed a fuel consumption of about 21 kilometers per litre, or 4.7 litres per 100 kilometers, or 49 miles per gallon. First service cost me 6,500 rupees and took about an hour at the Pune service centre. So that's it. That's my review, if you can call it a review. I'm no journalist, I'm just a guy. But yeah, those are my impressions of the Honda Transalp, riding and ownership so far, and I'll keep updating as I go along. Thanks for watching, and rubber side down to you, my two-wheeled friend. Until next time, cheers.